Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Right Click. My name is Byrdman, and today it's gonna be a weird one. I'm just gonna level with you. It's gonna be a weird one, and the reason I say this is I have to preface this, and bear with me here. It's not often that I get multiple examples of why we started this podcast at Right Side Media in such a succinct and impactful way as what we're going to talk about today. I typically prepare for these episodes in a very specific way. I have been doing this type of thing for a long time. I haven't really changed that MO really at all. Today was different. That's why I'm prefacing this, because I'm gonna be real with you. I went completely off script on this. I've got some examples of stuff that I'm going to pull up, but if you will indulge me for around about a half hour, we are going to talk about two video games, Concord and Dustborn. And listen, I spend the majority of my time talking about video games, and we talk about movies, we talk about pop culture and stuff like that. And these last several episodes, I will admit, have been very focused on video games, and I like to try to shake things up. But this is so egregious that I just felt like I had to kind of just come from the heart. And so that's what we're gonna do. Like I said, this is completely off script, and not that I really script these, but I sat down, I pulled up some examples of stuff that I have been seeing, and I'm just going to talk about it. So again, hope you enjoy it. Let's just jump right into this. The first game that we're going to talk about is a game called Concord, and I'm going to flip over here. I'll explain it for my folks that are listening and not watching. But Concord, this is the Steam page. This is the buy page for the game, and Concord is a pretty simple concept, actually. Concord is simply just a 5v5 hero shooter. It takes very similar reference to a game like Overwatch. Realistically, it's Overwatch, and I mean no disrespect, but it's Overwatch. And this is a game that is coming in a time where we didn't need another one. And I don't mean that with disrespect, because I know there was passion behind these developers, and I get that. I'm not here to badmouth that aspect. But this game didn't need to be made. And the realistic side of things realizes that, hey, people agreed with that. And mind you, this game peaked. I have it pulled up here. This game peaked at 697 concurrent players. I mean, that's awful. I mean, truly awful. Because people didn't want it. There's a lot of these games coming out right now, and frankly, there's a lot of them doing it better. And for the price tag, there's games exactly like this, i.e. Overwatch, that are much more cemented in this industry, and they're free, man. Yes, there's games as a service stuff in it. There's stuff that you have to pay for. Yeah, absolutely. Like this all, there's money involved, but at least to just go in and play the games, it's free. If you don't want to spend a dime on Overwatch, you really don't have to. I haven't. Now, granted, I don't play Overwatch anymore, but neither here nor there. But the reason I'm bringing this up is this game has been under just a wild amount of controversy because the game was a flop. And I mean, like a wild flop. And I'm going to pan back over here. This is actually from a Steam community forum page, and somebody asked the question 5 days ago, why was this game not successful? I've seen a lot of jokes about this game's failure, and I'm now curious to what happened. I admit I've never played it. I know there was a controversy with Helldivers 2 and the requirement to use a PSN account after launch, and this game has had this requirement since the beginning. Could this be the reason for the failure? Is the game bad? Is the game good, but there are better alternatives on the market? Now, I'm going to jump in. We are going to read some of these comments because it's a public post. It's a great way to see what people that are not just me are saying about it. Now, I am going to interject on my own opinion on this. I have not played it. I have watched gameplay video. I've watched a numerous amount of sources, because for one, I am not interested in a 5v5 hero shooter. I spent a lot of time playing 5v5 hero shooters, and frankly, there's nothing here in this game that is an incentive to go play it over something like Overwatch. It did not have the footing from the start, and frankly, this game was in development for 8 years. If I see something like that, and I see the things that they put out, I see their gameplay trailers, I see all of this stuff, their own marketing, not just marketing tools, but actual gameplay, and I look at it and go, okay, so not only do I have to pay $40 for it, but the game's not doing anything new or creative, and the game is not particularly incentivizing me to go out of my way to play it, especially to warrant that $40 cost. I struggle to be intrigued by this, but this is kind of where we get into the association, the court of public opinion. And for anybody curious, it's just a hand warmer. I'm not using a teleprompter or anything. I know I get questions about that. My hands hurt. Leave me alone. Anyways, this is a great summation. These few comments that we have to this post is interesting to see in this industry, because it's not comments that I would expect from this industry. I just don't. Somebody responded and said, this horse was punched to death already. It's painfully obvious why this flopped. It's worse than all of its competitors in every aspect, but it's also more expensive than its competitors, and it's made for a tiny fraction of the audience its competitors are made for. That's a real key thing. Like, yes, obviously, okay, more expensive, not as good. Yeah, great, more baseline stuff. But he says it's made for a tiny fraction of the audience its competitors are made for. Well, what he's saying by that is that there's a lot of DEI incentive and a lot of in-your-face leftist mentality. I have a personal thing. I hate just mindlessly calling things woke. That word has lost all meaning in conservative, Republican, right-wing zeitgeist, and frankly on the left as well. I feel like it has completely lost all meaning, and it's become nothing more than just a right-wing buzzword without any substantiation behind it. There are few instances where I can look at it and say, this fits the bill, and funnily enough, both of these games that we're talking about fit this bill. And Concord is just not even trying to hide that ball. Second comment is ugly characters, pronouns, it looks generic, Sony account is required, and the Sweet Baby touch. For those of you that don't know, Sweet Baby is, I forget what game they developed that really went overboard, but it's DEI. When you see Sweet Baby, it's a company who really pushes DEI. That's the best summation I can give in a quick amount of time. But it's funny to see this comment 2 comments down where somebody says this game is too woke for me. Honestly, it's interesting because the things that people would normally complain about, they're not. The game sucks. Yes, okay, fine. The gameplay's bad. Roger, like, carry on. That's fine. But you're seeing a lot of complaints like this. Don't want any type of modern day politics and ideologies in my entertainment. Also has the ugliest characters I've seen in a long time, among many other issues that have been said here thousands of times. And this is kind of where we narrow down on the root of the problem. And they are pushing pronouns. They are pushing DEI looks, strong female character, a very overweight African. I can only assume this to be some African American. Man, this is PCGamesN.com. Listen, this is a character breakdown. This is exactly what we're talking about. De Veers, this is the character right here. When your article starts out when your section starts out explaining this character, and your only incentive is if you're after a they them for some mayhem, bro, what are we doing? Like, I'm sorry. This is why I decided screw it. I'm going off script, because look at some of these characters, man. Like, this is intentional. Like, they're not trying to hide the ball at all. And then you look at the characters and the explanations for these characters, just pronouns everywhere, mixed gender stuff. I mean, who is this marketed towards? And the thing that really gets me is that after all of this, people still can't understand this market. And I mean, legitimately can't understand this market, because look at Overwatch, and look at the people that play Overwatch. Overwatch is one of the most toxic communities I've ever been involved in. Like, I've played a lot of Overwatch back in the day. I played a lot of ranked. I was fairly good at the game on a competitive level, but my lord, the amount of vitriol that comes out of that community is League of Legends level. This is not the style of game for the demographic that they're so desperately trying to push. And that's ultimately why it failed. And here is the final twist of the knife. There is a developer on this game who goes by they, them, very clearly a dude. At least, you know what, I'm not going to say anything. I'll let you make the determination. Using the stereotypical anime profile picture and they, them in the description. Okay. I'm trying to not be just ugly about it, but sometimes the shoe just fits. And then you get things like this. Xander Farrell is a view model animator for Concord and has been responding to critics about the game. And you can see they were talking about all this, time to go play, the game's out, and then they just go and start making very aggressive comments. And it's taking over you people like a symbiote, and like, it's just nonsense, man. I mean, they were melting down. This dude was melting down and over criticism of the game, at the same time was just wildly and aggressively berating Black Myth Wukong, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, which is still breaking records. That game is easily Game of the Year contender. Like, that game, it's not even in the same plane as these games. And the thing that really gets me is any level of reaction towards these people, the Skittles people, for whatever reason, has to have the response of just name calling, blocking, and retreat, as it says, retreating to your safe space. And like, that's exactly what this developer did. Just completely shut down. Hey, this game really didn't live up to the hype. And then they responded with, okay, this perfect example. Somebody, Preston, at Preston55 and a bunch of numbers on Twitter. I'm so sorry this has to be your first. I do not believe it's you or any other game dev's fault that this game's performed so poorly. I can tell that a lot of effort was put into completing this game. It just came out at the wrong time and genre. And this developer responded back in this way. I don't really care. It was a huge labor of love from a lot of insanely talented people making an awesome game. Why would I care about a bunch of talentless freaks hating on it? I'm sure having fun playing it, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And this gets down to the root of the issue. This dude, pretending to be something else, has the audacity to say, oh, well, the people who don't like it are just a bunch of talentless freaks. First of all, freaks is a real interesting word to throw around here, isn't it? Because at least these people aren't pretending to be something that they can't be. Just saying. This isn't controversial. Our culture has gone so friggin' far out that we believe that this is a controversial statement. It's not a controversial statement. You just have no personality and want to argue about something. That's really what a lot of this boils down to, because at the end of the day, if you make a crap product and people don't buy it, it's not the people's fault. You just made a crap product. And if you can't learn from that and move on, I don't know what to tell you. You can't respond like this. And I got to tell you, I understand what I'm saying in the position that I'm in. For God's sake, I got my face out here. Like, I understand that if somebody critiques me, I either have to respond to it, let it go, or learn from it. And learn from it can happen in both of those. But I am not going to sit here and say that if somebody critiques me and has legitimate critique, that I'm not going to consider it. If I'm going to be professional in my environment, then I have to understand that people see things through a different point of view than me as a creator making this. I have, the greatest of the great weren't great because they were born that way. A lot of them had that talent, but the greats were great because they honed their craft, and it took criticism. And this is the problem with these games. We're seeing this type of influence on a broad scale, but we have been neutered to the degree where we can't respond. Otherwise, it's hate, it's vitriol, you're blocked, you're reported. This isn't hatred. This is just, let's have a freaking conversation. And yet our culture has completely neutered the ability to have a conversation. And you don't have to like what I'm saying. I don't have to like what you're saying, but I will defend to my dying breath the ability for you to be able to say it. That's not controversial, and I can agree with every word that comes out of your mouth, but that point still stands, and I'm not going to hate somebody and block and all this, that, and the other for people who have actually put their time, money, effort, blood, face out there and on the line to say, hey, I made this, I'm proud of it. People respond negatively. I hate you, you're the worst, you're what's wrong. No, that's not how this works. That's just not how this works. And this is why we have seen such a detraction from any sense of reality in anything, in any medium that we use as a getaway. Video games, movies, etc. What was a getaway is now just social politics thrust into the spotlight and down, just frankly, down your throat. And that's why we're here. Because we see this stuff, we have to talk about this stuff. And what does it always end with? Some level of just somebody at some point is going to have to swallow it. Swallow their pride, their ego, their feelings. And somebody who's not this developer who went silent finally did. And that's what happened yesterday. Because we got this. And this is directly from Concord on their Steam page. An important update on Concord. Concord fans, we have been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation 5 and PC, and want to thank everyone who has joined the journey aboard the North Star. Your support and the passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. Mind you, less than 700 concurrent players. I'm sorry, I don't mean to demean this, but realistically, we have to talk about what's actually in front of us. Anyways, carrying on. However, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we intended. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline beginning September 6th, 2024. That's in 2 days' time of recording. And explore options, including those that will better reach our players. While we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately, and we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased the game for PS5 or PC. Steam Store will refund players who bought the game over the coming days. Steam will send confirmation of the refund once it has been processed. Once refunded, players will no longer have access to the game. We'll keep you updated, and thank you again to all the free runners who have joined us in the Concord Galaxy. So, what happens? You throw your tantrum, and then eventually reality has to set in. Why is this order of things so blindingly impossible for people like this to understand? All roads are leading to the same bloody place. I can't understand the malignant narcissism that it requires to view the world through this nihilistic standpoint. Boy, I am... Whew, okay. I can't bring myself to sit here and defend games like Concord and Dustborn, which we're going to talk about now. Because what always happens is you get hit with a tidal wave of hate and abuse. Oh, stop. Can we stop with this? Dude. It's one thing if you have some generic no-name on Twitter who refuses to put their name or their face or any level of identity behind vitriol. There's a difference between that and being like, hey, I am XYZ, and here's what's wrong with this product. Or you could just let the product talk for itself, because that's what people do. They don't have to talk about it. But if they do, these ridiculous devs come back and say, we're just hit with a tidal wave. A tidal wave of hate and abuse directed at the team. And this Kotaku article is just disgusting. Like, whoever wrote this, dude, find a new hobby. I'm sorry, but what are we doing? Because the defense of this is mind-blowing. Dustborn is simply just a first-person, or a single-player, story-driven action game. It's all about hope, love, friendships, and robots. And, oh, the power of words. Oh. Where do you think this is going? Very similar to how Concord went, mind you. Except somehow worse. Somehow worse. I don't know how, but somehow worse, because Dustborn peaked. Its peak player count, 83 people. Bro, they 83 people? 83 people. This game's $30, and you couldn't convince 100 people to buy it on Steam when it got this much notoriety? Long story short, single player game, and their whole thing is just built around the emphasis of the power of words and the importance of building an inclusive society where everyone belongs. It's a game. What are we doing? It's a game. Okay, anyways. Escapism is not allowed anymore. Let me just make that very clear. But I know at this point people are asking why, especially if you're not familiar with this. The game is just nothing but, again, like I said with Concord, DEI infection. Because it lost the forest for the trees, is truthfully what happened. The game itself is just bad, okay? Like, the gameplay loops were just objectively bad. And I'm not here to go into a game review of how the game physically plays and all this. I like the art style of this game a lot. Like, a whole lot. Personal preference. I think they did a phenomenal job with the art style of this game. But I'm not here to break that down. I'm here to talk about the cultural side of this. And what did they do in their game? They made it all about culture, but through one particular lens. Let me explain. Talking about that emphasis on the power of words and the importance of building an inclusive society where everybody belongs, yada, 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 yada. Okay. Here is part of the actual... God, I wish I was making this up. Part of the actual gameplay loop. The things that you do in this game. The abilities that you have. Because, again, it's built on words. Yeah, it's built on words. Here's one of the abilities. Discord. We've learned to sow discord. Discord gives us the ability to turn people against each other. This could be useful both when talking to people and when we're fighting enemies. Bully. We've learned to bully people. Bully gives us the power to force people to do something they may not want to do or to make them feel bad about themselves. In fights, this could be highly effective on targeted enemies. Oh yeah, we're doing it. Cancel. We've learned how to cancel someone. Cancel will allow us to isolate people from their friends and compatriots. In battle, this could be a useful tool against enemies. And then, bam! last one, certainly not least, normalize. We've learned how to normalize negative emotions. Do you feel better? It's in a game now. Do you feel better? Normalize gives us the ability to make people think certain behaviors or feelings are normal. But I'm not sure it will do much for us in a fight. Okay. I've seen a lot of defense of this because people are essentially saying like, yeah, conceptually it's just all about tongue is mightier than the sword, and like, yeah, okay. Fundamentally, I don't have a problem with that, actually. What I can't seem to wrap my head around is that people are actually defending this when in reality, this is not even, they're not even trying. Like, they're not trying to hide the ball here. And people, you go on forums and stuff like that, and you'll see, I don't know why people keep focusing on the political aspect of this game when the game itself is atrocious. Like, that's hilarious. And then it's just people just downright arguing about this being I'm reading this from a forum. This is manufactured outrage. It's the same tactic against trans people. Hate a small group to galvanize your people. And this is the best response to this. That got a lot of upvotes. They made a leftist extremist game and acted all shocked when people called them out for it. Yeah, and that's... I love this too. Somebody tried to justify this by saying the game makes it a point to tell you to try other ways to solve issues without using the powers because they are designed to make people feel bad. The only time you should use them is when your life is actually in danger, in dialogue and combat. With all due respect, stop that because it's trash. Why is this trash? Because I'm going to swap over here.
Fella you're with, the black kid, dresses like a writer. Does he know anything?
You are racist.
Fella you're with,
I'm sorry, but shut up. I don't. We're officially at the point where we have lost so much connection with reality as a society, as a culture. You can't justify that. I don't know what to tell you. But if your game is literally built around the ability to excuse yourself from a conversation by just calling people racists, regardless of whatever quote-unquote intent you had behind it, that doesn't negate the fact that this is the product you released. Oh, and by the way, just as we begin to cap this off, I do want to let you all know the most wonderful cherry on top of this game. This is a Norwegian game from an indie studio that was approved and linked by the Norwegian government, and its development was funded by their tax dollars because it pushes the right narrative. You can't make this up. This is where we're at. This is where we're at, and here's the final response. A message from Redthread, the developer, to our community, which, by the way, this has 10 million views on Twitter alone. And again, I do not want you to forget that this game peaked at a player count of 83 people. They literally could have just DM'd the people playing. To our community. I'll swap over so you can see. To our community, since we first announced Dustborn, we've read your comments and listened to your feedback, hopes and wishes for the game. Over the past 4 years, that's how long it took to develop this, our team has poured their hearts into telling a story that's deeply meaningful to us. A story about the power of words, about building a world where everyone can feel safe, about love, friendships, and robots, of course. We expected Dustborn to spark conversation and debate and look forward to engaging with our players in a positive and constructive fashion. Unfortunately, that conversation has been drowned out by a tidal wave of hate and abuse. We welcome thoughtful feedback and respectful criticism. We embrace discussion and debate, but we have zero tolerance for hate speech, harassment, and threats of any kind. For those who engage in such behavior will be removed from our community. To everyone else, thank you for coming on this journey with us. Your support means everything, and your constructive feedback continues to push us to learn and evolve. Together, let's continue building a world where everyone can feel valued and empowered to share their stories. And I'm going to wrap up with this. Those who engage in such behavior will be removed from our community. Remember, if you speak out and they get their feelings hurt, and that becomes hate speech, thus you be removed. I'm going to let you sit with that one. Think that one through. Because that sounds a whole awful lot like something that we're real familiar with. I don't know what to tell you, man. At some point, the levee is going to blow. Like, I don't know, man. At some point, this is just going to reach a fever pitch, and it's going to go one way or another. And I feel confident that our side, and I don't. When I say our side, I don't even mean conservative. I don't mean Republican. I don't mean right wing. I don't mean left wing. Normal friggin' people. This is so simple, and this is the problem that we're at in today's society. Normalcy has been, how do I put this in a PC manner? Normalcy has been trounced. I'm gonna go with that. That's nice. That's PC. I like that. That feels good. I like that. Anyways, it has. I don't know another way to slice this pie, but we never should have baked that. We never should have baked that cake. We just shouldn't have, because we got so tolerant of all this, that, and the other that it ate itself. It just destroyed itself from the inside out. But we went so far and allowed these types of people to have these types of unrealistic and unnatural expectations of the real world that when any backlash happens, you're the problem, you racist, you bigot, you sexist, you ist, whatever ist may be. You're going to be removed. You just made a crappy game, dog. What are we doing? I don't mean to be overtly aggressive on this, but I am so fed up with this nonsensical narrative that we continue to allow to be pushed. And when I say allow, I see this response so often. Well, when you say allow, you're just controlling our speech, which is the same thing you're speaking about. No, dude, that's not what that means at all. And you know that. And if you don't know that, oh, God have mercy. It's not about controlling what people say. It's about granting this level of status and priority to nonsense. If your child walks up to you and says, Daddy, I think I'm a fighter plane. Cool. You're not. Cool. It's a child. But it's a child. We have grown adults dictating our day-to-day life, acting like children. The difference is, properly raised, that child will grow out of thinking I am something fictitious. But we baked that cake, and now these people are running things and can't get it through their head that maybe you can't legitimately and physically be something that you're not. Maybe if you make something crappy and try to jam it down our throats, this political nonsensical narrative, tax-funded narrative, mind you, that we just don't like it. That doesn't mean we hate you. This isn't complicated. Honestly, I might make that the freaking title of this. This is not complicated. Stop making it complicated. And it's on us to untangle this ridiculous web that has been fostered for so long at this point. And we're seeing the effects of it now in every single aspect of life. And we wonder why there's such hatred in the political realm. You wonder why there's such hatred in the things in the mediums that we use to relax or to escape. You can't escape it anymore. And that's on us. And that's on generations that came before. Because like I said, you baked that cake. And now they're jamming it down our throats. So I'm going to leave it at that. I could rant for so long about this. This is why I went off my normal beaten path. I hope you understand. I hope you enjoyed. I will be back next week, and this will look a lot different. God willing. There's a whole lot of changes coming here. With Right Side Media as a whole, we're doing a lot of new stuff. We're doing a lot of things under the hood. And I'm excited that you guys get to come along with us. It's going to be a fun time. This is going to look a lot different. And I, specifically, with Right Click, have something brewing, let's say. We got some things, some people interested in making some guest appearances, let's say. Anyways, I got some cool stuff cooking. You'll see it here soon. I hope you enjoyed this. I know this was far different than it has been, but still, I hope you enjoyed this. And think about the stuff that we're seeing. Truly, give it an honest thought, because it's on us, man. I say this practically every episode at this point. It's on us. So go act like you have some responsibility in this world, because you do. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you all for watching. My name is Byrdman. This has been another episode of Right Click. Go find us on rightsidemedia.org and all of our other content. I hope you enjoyed. You guys have a wonderful day.